Hey there. So I'm going to run through this pretty quickly. You may want to pause as we go, but I'm going to review the semester 1 2020 final exam. So your final was sent to you via email. You might want to open that in a separate window. So pause and do that. Do keep in mind though that the questions and options were randomized, so they might be random in your email too. Follow along, both watch and listen. Remember, the concept checks are clue based. I do it a little bit differently than Newman. You'll have to watch and listen. Pause to rework or copy work and add it to your notes when needed. If you have questions after watching the video, by all means, send us an email or come into a Google Meet. And then I am going to choose the technique of working the problems and then looking for my answer versus eliminating multiple choice questions. Both are great strategies, as long as you always check your work. Here we go. Problem 1. Simplify negative 343,000 to the 1/3 power. So you need to remember that I don't have a pen. That'll make me take longer. Okay, that the 1/3 power becomes a root. So that's the cubed root of negative 343, which would be negative 70 times negative 70 times negative 70. Might be one that you could definitely use a process of elimination for. Second one, write an equation in slope-intercept form, that's y equals mx plus b, that has the slope of -2 and goes through the point 0.05. So slope is -2, that's your m. Oh, my pen is glitching. And if you graph 0.5, you can quickly see that that is a y-intercept. So y equals -2x, that's the slope, plus 5, y-intercept. Solve for 2x minus x plus 2 equals 14. The key to this one is you have to distribute that negative sign. So what happens here is you end up with a negative x minus 2. So 2x minus x is just x, minus 2 plus 2 zeroes out, and you end up with x is 14. This one was definitely one of the more difficult ones for most students. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to fix your negative exponents. So that m to the -4 and p to the -3 need to get switched into the denominator and become positive. So that's what you see here. Step 2, you're going to distribute. So the coefficient times the first term, the coefficient times the second term, and they're going to be subtracted from each other. So I rewrote my n's together and my m's together so that my product rule of exponents would be easier to see. Then when I start rewriting things, I discover that n squared, n to the 3rd is n to the 5th, m to the 4th, m to the 3rd is m to the 7th. Those are my only ones that are like bases. Then I'm going to use the quotient rule and I'm going to start canceling things out. So I have 2 m's that are divided there. That reduces down into an m in the denominator. And I have n's that reduce down to an n to the 4th in the numerator there. Then I look at all my options and I find the correct answer. Oh yeah, here is my first clue. It's going to be glasses. For what value of x is the expression undefined? So it doesn't matter what the numerator is. We just want to look at the denominator. Denominator can't equal 0. So we set the denominator up to not equal 0. Opposite operations leaves me with a -4. If x were a -4, my denominator would be 0, and that is undefined. Which equation demonstrates the identity property of multiplication? Identity property means that the value does not change. So I could add 0 or I could multiply by 1. That, because it's the identity property of multiplication, that means that it is a times 1 equals a. The equation of the line. So here's what I want to look at here. The first thing I see very quickly is that my y-intercept is at +3. So there's my y-intercept. And then I look at where my line actually crosses the grid. So it's up 1/2, up 1/2, up 1/2, up 1/2. That gives me a 1/2, and it's actually a positive 1/2 x plus 3. This one was significantly easier than the distributive property one. Really, all you're doing is fixing the negative exponents. There are 2 of those. And then using the product rule. So I have m to the 3rd, m to the 2nd gives me m to the 5th, and q to the 10th, q to the 6th gave me q to the 16th. And then my quotient rule means that I can reduce the p squared over p to the 4th, leaving me with just p squared in the denominator. I then find that solution. Computer manufacturing company has 14 defective of 350 LCDs. So how many will it have out of its daily production of 2,000? Two proportions, two fractions set equal. Then we're going to cross multiply. 14 times 2,000 equals 350 times X. Use the order of operations and you discover that 80 of those would be defective in a daily production of 2,000. A square mosaic is made up of small glass tiles. If the area, if there are 196 small squares in the mosaic, how many are there along one edge? So we know that the area is 196, each one of those squares, which would be 14 times 14. Remember, you're looking for area, not perimeter. Determine the slope of the line that contains the points -4, 6, and -8, 8. So slope is the change in y over the change in x. I'm going to subtract them in the same order. So 6 minus 8 is a -2, and -4 minus a -8, that would become positive, is 4. That leaves me with a slope of -1/2. I can do a real quick check in my graph and see that if I plot those 2 points, I get a negative, gentle, gradual slope. My next clue is going to be Alexa, one of my favorite tools. Okay. I don't know that. She doesn't like that. Model airplanes constructed using a scale factor. So that's the first thing I'm going to write down. My model is 1 centimeter and the real thing is 75 centimeters. It wants to know if the real thing is 12 meters, how big is the model going to be? So I chose in the first round in green to not convert yet, just cross multiply. So 1 times 12 equals 75 times x. Opposite operations gives me 0.16, but that's meters. There's 100 centimeters in a meter. Move my decimal 2 places and I get 16 centimeters. Now you could have converted first. A centimeter is 75 centimeters. How many centimeters in the model is equal to 1,200 centimeters in the real thing? So then I would cross multiply and I actually get the 16 as a final answer right off the bat in centimeters. 36% of 84, people did really well on this one. 36% is 36 per 100, 0.36. Multiply it, whether you hit it up with a calculator or did it longhand like I did, you came up with 30.24. Find the 50th term of the sequence. This one was difficult for some people, and I think part of that is that you don't need to memorize the formula, but when you hit a sequence, you need to look up the formula. So A of n is the term that you want. We want the 50th. A of 1 is the first term, that's 1. And the difference is going to be 3. 1 to 4 is 3, 4 to 7 is 3, 7 to 10 is 3. So then I really just use my order of operations. So 1 plus 50 minus 1 is 49. 49 times 3 is 147. Add in that 1. And the 50th term in that sequence, if I kept counting up by threes, would be 148. So keep in mind that when you see this, if you haven't memorized this, which I don't know why you would unless you're a math teacher, you should look it up. It tells you. It would be right there in lesson 34. What's the value when 1/2 is multiplied by the difference of 2x minus 4 and set equal to 2 minus 3x? So I distribute that 1/2. That gives me 1x minus 2 is 2 minus 3x. Remember, move the smaller one first. So I'm adding 3x to both sides, adding the 2, and then dividing all of my opposite operation work, and I end up with 1. I could substitute in a 1 to these 2 spots just to make sure that it came out equal. This one was definitely a difficult one. And this is actually one that I probably would do a process of elimination. So in here, if I had cups in the top and cups in the top, that would be cups squared. Same thing happens here. I have cups in the top and cups in the top. That's cups squared again. I don't want my cups to be squared, right? Cups times cups. In the third one, keep in mind that these are not ratios to be set equal to each other. 150 cups is not, because 1 pint is 2 cups. That equals 1. Well, that doesn't equal 150 cups, right? 150 cups is not equal to 1. That's what that's saying. So then my only one that works is the bottom one, but you absolutely could have written it out, done some scratch work on your own, and figured out that cups cancels with cups, pints cancels with pints, quarts cancels with quarts, and leaves you with gallons. Which represents this statement, 3 less than, so whatever it is, I'm going to subtract 3. Then the product of 9 and a number is greater than or equal to 5. So is tells me that this is going to become the inequality, is greater than or equal to 5. So the product of 9 and a number, 9 times x, 3 less than that, minus 3, is greater than or equal to 5. However, when I look for that, I discover that there isn't any x's. So I quickly recognize that, remember, your variable can be any letter of the alphabet. 9 times a number minus 3 is greater than or equal to 5. Estimate the value of the square root of 50 to the nearest whole number. People did really well on this one. The square root of 50 is really, really close to the square root of 49. The square root of 49 is 7. The key here is it wanted the nearest whole number, not the full answer. Two triangles are similar. In triangle ABC, the length of side AB is 5, BC is 4, AC is 2.5. I suggested that you sketch and label that. It would have helped. If the length of EG is 12, find EF. So a couple of different ways that you could have done this. You could have realized that 5 is twice 2.5, right? 2.5 times 2 equals 5. So what times 2 would equal 12? That's 6. You could have also set it up as proportions, as I've done here. 5 is to 12, long side is to long side, as the short side is to the short side. 2.5 is to x, cross multiply, you get x equals 6. You could have done it long side to short side, long side to short side. 5 is to 2.5, as 12 is to x. You figure it out, it's the exact same cross multiplication, you end up with 6 again. Simplify. This one was really just about distributive property and, I guess not just, and also recognizing like terms. So 3a plus 12b had to distribute, minus 6a plus 2a squared. So one of the things that you had to recognize that was a and a squared are not the same, minus 2b. Now you put your a's together, so you're very careful that it's a plus 3a minus 6a, right? That's a minus 3a. Plus 12b, sorry, I've already scribbled all over this once. Minus 2b would be 10b. And then that 2a is not a like term, so it cannot be grouped in with that 3a. So you end up with 2a squared minus 3a plus 10b. Exponents count down, alphabetical order to write it in the order. So, my last clue, phone. All right, so now hopefully you have your 5 clues. Those are what are going to go into your concept check. So if you have questions about your test, please email or come to a Google Meet and ask. Complete the concept check with the 5 words in orders preferred. It makes it easier for me to grade, but you remember you can only take it once, so make sure that you have pulled all 5 words from this video. Complete the homework as soon as possible. It's a Google Doc in Google Classroom, not a homework out of your workbook. We'll be grading it on Wednesday, January 13th, because Monday and Tuesday are map testing. We will be meeting Monday and Tuesday in the Google Meet at the start of class. Please be on time so we can get that map testing done as quickly as possible. Have a good